Welcome, Senator Hinchey. I thank you so much for coming, and we're going to turn it right over to you so you can chat away for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, well, hi everyone. First, sorry I'm not there in person, and also sorry that I can't stay for the whole thing. You can see I'm in my car, heading into something right now, but I did not want to miss this and not come on and say hello and really say, first and foremost, a big thank you to all of our educators. I mean, it's such a important part of our society. We really appreciate you and everything that you do. And it's our responsibility to support you and make sure that you have the resources you need to continue to really serve our next generation, because that's what makes us the strongest. One of the things that I've been focused on in the education space, no surprise, I think many of you know this, is universal school meals. And that is making sure that every student, regardless of where they live or income eligibility, can have access to free breakfast and lunch. That's really important for a host of reasons. I'm sure all of them you know, but one, we know not everybody who needs that support, who needs that food, is necessarily qualifies. Those thresholds are kind of arbitrary. Two, it removes the stigma. So it allows students to just be students and not have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, not have to justify something that they're getting that their other students may not be getting, not be teased about the need that is there, etc. And so we did a big campaign over the last couple of years, a bipartisan effort to bring universal school meals to New York. And over the last number of years, we've been able to gain significant momentum. And last year, we got about 80 to 90% of our schools and therefore all of our students covered, which was a huge win. But 80 does not equal 100. And so we are coming back to the table this year to fight for 100%. And the governor wonderfully put the rest of really the whole thing, the rest of that 20% gap in her executive budget, which is really exciting. So for me, what we've shifted to in terms of this budget is to change the farm to school program to make sure that it includes breakfast and it includes snacks so that we can get more farm fresh food into all of our schools. The number of schools that are able to participate right now in that farm to school program is really limited, is really low, because it's that 30% initiative. It's impossible basically when it's just lunch. So we want to add breakfast. No one's buying apples for lunch and then different apples for breakfast and then different apples for snack, right? You're buying apples that are then going out for every meal. So the paperwork nightmare to track that is in and of itself exhausting and a huge deterrent and barrier. So we carry legislation with Assembly Member McMahon to change that. That's our big push. And also increasing the reimbursement rate from 19 cents to 25 cents so that our farmers can actually make get paid what they need for the food, and it's not an additional cost. It actually saves some money for our school districts. So that is our big education initiative push for the budget this year. Of course, we also want to make sure that we're not seeing any BOCES cuts in the education budget. So we've pushed back on any of those, and we should be investing more money in our career and technical education, not less. So that's critical. We'll be fighting for that. And it'll also be interesting to see where we net out. I'm with you. I'm not sure what we're going to net out yet, but on the foundation aid formula, last year, as everyone remembers, our big fight was to restore hold harmless and to get the study to see what we should do with the foundation aid formula. This year, the governor has hold harmless at 2% and made two changes to the foundation aid formula. She took two recommendations from the Rockefeller study. That's her proposal. We obviously want to make sure that as much money as possible gets to our school districts and to our schools and to our students and to our educators. So we'll be talking with, at least in our house, the chair of the education committee, Shelley Mayer from Westchester. I know she's got a lot of thoughts on what should happen. We have not gotten to our one house discussions quite yet. We still have budget hearings, some that were going on today, but that will be a big topic of conversation going into the next month. So that's a quick round for me. Again, I want to say thank you, and also just a plug both for having these forums, but two, for when you can, joining lobby days and talking to not just your own legislators, of course, that's really important, but to other legislators from across the state, and making sure also that your counterparts in other parts of the state understand the challenges that we all face in our more rural communities. You know, it's not that people don't care about our rural communities, it's just that they don't know of the challenges we face, right? It's not what they're living, it's not their day to day, so they're not as familiar with it. It's a huge education to make sure that people really understand some of the inequities that we face in rural areas and some of the issues. You know, your district could be massive, right? In the Onteora School District, it's 300 square miles. Even if you've got one kid at the end of that school district, that kid's still got to get to school. So that cost still exists, right? That focus on getting that student transportation to the school, even if there's a declining population or declining enrollment, still matters, and it's still a cost that we all bear. So these are the kinds of things that we're working to educate all of our colleagues on. And I encourage, and it's really helpful when they hear directly from you and directly from the leaders on the ground. So thank you for your participation. Thank you for being true advocates and true fighters in this space. I really appreciate you all. And just thank you so much. Our door's always open if we can be helpful. And please send us all of your information, anything you need or things you think we should know. More information is always the better. So our door's always open, and just really appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Senator Hinchey. All right.
Thank
Good evening.
you.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alyssa Bracken. I'm the president of the Catskill Regional Teacher Center's Policy Board. On behalf of the Catskill Regional Teacher Center, I would like to welcome everyone for coming to our 22nd Legislative Forum. And thank you all for braving the winter weather to make it here. We know that if the weather was a little better, we'd probably have more people in attendance. We had a few people cancel at the last minute. We would like to thank our esteemed participants, Assemblymember Joseph Angelino, Assemblymember Brian Miller via Zoom. And then, of course, we just saw from Senator Michelle Hinchey from via Zoom. Other prominent members of our education community who have confirmed their attendance by email who are here tonight include Joseph Marati, NYSA Political Action Committee, President David Rogers, SUNY Morrisville, and Natalie McKay, Schoharie Teachers Association President, NYSA at Large Board of Director, Ed 11-12-45, NYSA Trustee Member Benefits Trust. Thank you to the local teacher association presidents and the Catskill Regional Teacher Center's Policy Board for making all of this possible. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Lastly, thank you to Patricia Kennedy and all the wonderful folks here at Springbrook for providing this beautiful space and for being so wonderful to work with. The fact that we work with private schools as well as public schools is one of the great values of the teacher centers. At this time, I would like to turn this over to our director, Erin Sorensen.
Thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. It's a wonderful night for me as I get to return back to the organization that brought me to this area. I began my career here in 1989 at what was then called the Upstate Home for Children and Adults. It was here that I was introduced to the Catskill Regional Teacher Center and served as the private school representative to the board. And it was my work on the board that helped forge a relationship between Hartwick College and Springbrook. The Catskill Regional Teacher Center was established in 1989 as a professional learning system organized and operated by teachers to improve their own educational performance. At the heart of Teacher Center concept is the idea that strong, empowered teachers are the backbone of strong schools and enhanced educational communities. The Catskill Regional Teacher Center supports the profession of teaching from pre-service to post-service, from public schools to private schools. We can only do this work with the support of our legislators. Thank you. Unlike our other educational entities, our funding comes exclusively through their legislative action. We would like to thank the legislators for their support. Teacher centers only exist because of their annual appropriations. We have had a few lean years and even a year or two without funding. And while teacher centers are nowhere near the once appropriated 40 million, we are grateful for all that you do and your efforts to keep us funded and to allow us to do the work that we do here. Your commitment to teachers is so clearly evident by the efforts that you all make to come each year to be with us at this forum. Our best forums have been those that allow for a back and forth conversation between the participants and our guests. In a few minutes, I will ask each of you to introduce yourselves and provide a brief overview of what you have been working on as it relates to education. But before you pass the proverbial mic, we don't have an actual mic. But before I pass the mic over to your colleague, please let us know 2 ways that teachers can help you understand, further your understanding of education in our schools. So we will start with Assemblyman Angelino. Thank you for coming.
Hi, folks. My name is Joe Angelino, and I'm always a half hour early. So I've spent 20 minutes up on the hill where my GPS took me until I found my way down here. But I appreciate the invitation. I'm not afraid of the weather. I've been out since about 6 o'clock this morning. My first meeting was at 7:30 a.m. with Dr. Rogers in Morrisville. Early risers up there in Morrisville. I'm in the Assembly, the lower house of the New York State Representatives, the Assembly and the Senate. There's 150 people in that room with myself and Mr. Miller up on the screen. And of that 150, 100 are from basically White Plains south into New York City and Long Island. That leaves 48 of us upstate. So our districts upstate are enormous. My district is currently 5 counties. I lost 1 county January 1st. I lost Sullivan County, but now I represent Madison, Shenango, Otsego, Delaware, and Broome, portions of each of those counties. And that's about 135,000 people. You're asking how I interact with education. And let me just tell you the committees I'm on in Albany. And they're all pretty non-controversial. I'm on corporations. And I guess that one's my most controversial because that oversees the MTA, and everything in the legislature revolves around New York City. And whatever it is, New York City is, the big gorilla in the room. So I'm on the Corporations Committee. I'm on Veterans Committee. I'm a veteran. I spent 23 years in the Marines. I am on the Parks, Rec, and Tourism. Again, a very non-controversial committee until they realized we had a Donald Trump State Park down in Westchester County, and that got a little heated for a few months. I am on the other committees. I guess there's the big 3 committees: Ways and Means, Rules, and Codes. I am on the Codes Committee, and that deals with all the laws of New York State, penal law, CPL law, that doesn't have a specific committee. Like, we know there's an education law, there's a committee for that. We know there's a public health law, there's a committee for that. Well, the Codes Committee takes care of all the other laws that don't have a specific committee, but the big one is penal law. Now, the 2 committees that I am the ranker on, and in the Assembly, there's chairman of committees from the majority party, and the minority party has a ranker, the senior ranking member from the minority party. I'm the only minority party member that is a ranker on 2 committees. And the first one is Oversight and Investigation of Government Operations. You think that would be a pretty busy committee. I've been on it for 5 years. We have never met. We have never met, even throughout the whole COVID thing, when everything was going on, we have never met. And I think, no one has ever really told me, but I think the reason is because we have subpoena power. And I don't think anybody wants, 7 assembly members wielding out subpoenas because the Speaker of the House doesn't want that happening. So that's a very non-controversial committee because it never meets. The other committee that meets, so just so you know, let me tell you a little bit, Corporations Committee. Corporations, I think there's 24 members of the Corporations Committee. So when we have a committee meeting, it's like a Thanksgiving room table. It's a huge table. We're all sitting at it, 20-some members. I am the ranking member of the Ethics and Guidance Committee. That committee does meet, and that committee is unusual. There's only 8 members, and it's evenly split, 4 majority, 4 minority, and I'm the ranking member there. And the last commission that I am on, and this is no pleasant commission to be on. I am on I'm one of the commissioners for the New York State Ethics Commission. And we do meet because there's an 800 number to report any member of the legislature or staff for any wrongdoing. And luckily, a lot of it is frivolous and disgruntled employees or what have you, but we do meet. So again, I am not on any of the committees that is going to impact you in your day-to-day life, but I am a member of the assembly. So those are the committees I'm on. And your questions, well, the first thing you can do, this is a great forum. And I've been to this is the first time here, and it is a beautiful facility. I think we've met at SUNY Oneonta in the past. And, but this is, you got to engage with us. And we try to engage with you, but if you listened, I have 135,000 people. And the squeaky wheels are the ones that get the attention. And I have a lot of squeaky wheels. But inviting me here to a forum like this is a great way to, because there's always safety in numbers, and you guys can group up and tell me seriously what is on your mind collectively. That's why we have unions. That's why we have associations. So this is good. What was the second one? Oh, you need 2 ways to engage. The second way, I think, I invite anybody. Is there any of my constituents here from Edmiston? Where are you from? Bainbridge. Is that Shenango County? Edmiston, Pittsfield, Morris, Otsego, Unadilla, Butternuts. Any of those? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, thankfully Bainbridge is in the house. But I invite constituents to always come to Albany, and I will treat you like a king, because when I'm in Albany, there are absolutely 0 people who I represent in Albany. So if a constituent comes to Albany, I will get you into the chambers, and you can shadow me for the day, see what we do up there. It's not very exciting, because a lot of the things that happen that impact everybody in New York State take place behind closed doors. Now, last year, everybody remembers when the school aid runs come out? Well, how many here are private school? Anybody? Okay, so it's all public school?
Well, we do represent private schools
Right.
as well.
Everybody here is public?
But it appears that way.
So last year, when the school aid runs came out, probably at the end of the day, I don't remember exactly, but I was driving home, and as soon as I got cell service, my phone had messages, and school superintendents were calling me. It was going to be the end of Hancock, Franklin, several schools that are close by. Anybody from those school districts?
Yes.
Those schools saw draconian cuts, and the Assembly and the Senate, Republican and Democrat, both used all of the political clout that we had to talk to the governor's staff that this just can't be. You're going to destroy. And I'll speak on Hancock. Is anybody here from Hancock? Hancock specifically, I used to represent, I no longer do. Hancock specifically was a poverty school district with high wealth.
Yes.
How does that make sense?
Yes.
That makes sense because of so many New York City and out-of-state people who have homes there. And do you know why they're they have homes, well, do you know how they show up on Hancock's radar? They all register as residents so that their car insurance is cheaper, is what I have learned from everybody who has a metropolitan address. They go to Hancock and say that's their residence. So I was trying, that's what I was told by the school officials from down in the Hancock area. They're a high poverty, high wealth. And that formula, and I got to tell you, the school aid formula and all of the, the foundation, everything that goes into that, and all of the transportation parts of it. I thought milk pricing formulas were complex until I saw the school aid formulas. And it's just mind boggling. So I know last year we appropriated money for the Rockefeller Institute to come in and do a study on how to do that better. And the results that we saw on paper, nobody called me when I was driving home screaming, with their hair on fire. But I just want to caution everybody, in that legislation, at the very end, it said the state legislature still has final say on how the money gets appropriated. So long before I joined the assembly, my predecessor, who was in office for 26 years, Cliff Crouch from Bainbridge, told me no matter how they do it, it always ends up being the total pie of education budget. A third goes to New York City, a third goes to Long Island, a third is divided amongst the rest of the state. So we'll see how that works out. But I'm happy to, when the time comes, to answer any questions. I'm sort of lonely up here, so please engage me. And I'm interested in hearing what Mr. Miller has to say.
So we turn it over to you, Mr. Miller. I'm sorry. The echo is terrible.
Thank you, and thank you, Joe. I think you just about said everything that we can talk about here, but I'm Brian Miller. I'm the assemblyman from the 122nd Assembly District. Joe, I see you over there. I hope your son's doing well in his baseball endeavors, if he's still playing. But I now represent I used to represent the 101st. I used to go from New Hartford. They used to tell people to Kingdom Come. 60 miles north of New York City. So I had 7 different counties, 25 towns, and a huge number of school districts. But we're glad to be here. I always enjoy these forums. One thing I'm going to request that we have these forums more than once a year during budget, because we really need to have these these discussions not only in February, but we need to have them in July. We need to have them in November, so we can work on issues long before it comes up that the governor's budget comes out. Some of the committees I'm ranking member on the Transportation Committee. I'm on the Ag Committee. I'm on Real Property Taxation, Consumer Protection, and I'm also on Higher Ed. And all of these committees I'm on, they truly affect education all the way across the state. One of the biggest issues that we've been working on that's going to touch a lot of us, so all of us here, is the electric bus mandate that's here. And this mandate, we've had some public hearings on joint hearings in the Assembly with the Energy and Transportation Committee on electrification across the state charging, which really turned into a huge discussion on electric buses and what's going to happen here. And you really need to push this thing off, because this money that we're going to, the districts and all the school systems here in New York State, upstate, it's going to really affect us, could be spent more wisely on education. Somebody who survived COVID, and I understand this, this COVID cohort that we're going to have here. COVID's not over. It's gonna be with us for probably another 15 years on all the social and educational aspects that the kids have missed along, during that 3 or 4 years that we had COVID. So I guess I'm gonna, open it up to the questions. My office is always open. We spend a lot of time with the educators here. We're in a lot of the school systems. We enjoy being in the schools. We want to hear what's going on. We have great conversations back and forth. I truly feel that all of us here are at a point where, we have a chance to reinvent how education is going to look here in New York State for years to come. And, I'm very happy to be serving during that time and serving with you because, the Blue Ribbon Commission here on how we're going to change our path to graduation and what the employers are looking for. This morning we started out over at the new hospital in Utica, MVHS, talking about their nursing shortages and all the opportunities that we're going to have here in the health field, not only upstate but across the nation, and how we can work hand in hand with credentialing and different things like that, and change how things are done. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Please ask the hard questions. I need to learn from you, so the conversations back and forth. That's one of the biggest things. Our office used to be in the Oneida, Madison, Herkimer County, BOCES up on Middle Settlement Road. And, a lot of us probably remember Howard Metalman. He used to walk down the hall once every couple of weeks, and we'd have great conversations. So I'm going to open it up to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about what's going on.
So those of you in the audience with questions, I would ask you to come on up. The microphone is here in the middle of the table and does not pick up necessarily well all the way around. So if you would come on up with a question. Sure, there's a couple of questions from the field. If not, I can.
We got to dip into the pool.
Did you want to come up?
Can I just interrupt one thing for just 1 second? From the Rockefeller study last year, I was very disappointed. They did a great job on identifying a lot of the issues with the foundation formula, but I was really disappointed that there wasn't a formula solution given to the legislature. Instead of 8 or 10 points that we know that we need to work, I really wish there was some additional work on where these formulas should go, in how we should be utilizing them, and how we need to adjust them to hopefully work throughout the state. So I'm sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to get that in.
Over here. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Okay, I wrote it down because it's a lot in the question. But I wanted to know your thoughts about fixing tier 6 retirement contributions. It's 6% to 3% to 6% for their whole career. Well, tier 4 is 3% for 10 years. Okay. Now, the teacher's retirement fund is 98.6% funded, and it's only 3% comes from teacher contributions. Okay, I have the paper in there if you want to see. Yeah,
Right at it.
right. I wrote it up because I wanted to make sure I had all my facts straight. And I looked on their website, so that's from their last newsletter. And also, in trying to fix tier 6, retirement age now is 63 years old with 40 years of service, with heavy penalties unless, and tier 4 is retirement age of 55 with 30 years of service. If a teacher right now that was in tier 6 wanted to retire, they would have really heavy penalties if they don't have the 40 years and they're not 63. So what are your thoughts about changing the tiers? And it's been done before, where the tiers have gone back to the original ones that were more conducive to, actually, that would help with teacher recruitment. It would help with teacher, the budgets for schools. Because if your teacher has to work that much longer, they're going to be at a higher pay scale for a long time. Okay, and, okay. Sorry. So what are your thoughts about changing tier 6 back to tier 4?
So I guess I'm going first because I drove all this way and Brian's sitting at home. Smile over there. Thank you, Brian. Everything that I am going to talk about tonight, you're going to hear a common theme, and it's going to be population loss in New York State. All right, so not specific to everything, but it's the undercurrent of all that happens in New York State. Tier 6 is awful. I have met with the Civil Service Commissioner. He was unfortunate enough. He came to Norwich, where I live, and he was talking to the Chamber of Commerce and the County of Shenango Personnel Office. And I showed up and invited myself. But a nice guy. He worked for General Motors, worked for huge corporations with more employees than New York State has. Smart guy. And he agrees that tier 6 is awful, but it's a legislative fix. This happened. There was first off, if you look at me and you know I have gray hair, I'm probably always the oldest person in the room wherever I go. So I have a long memory. And I also don't want to get booed when I tell you I retired from tier 2. Yeah, thank you. But I started in the New York State retirement system when I was 19 years old. All right, so I was lucky. Tier 6 is a problem, and it's not just teachers, it's all government employment. We've all seen August timeframe on the highways. New York State DOT, their variable message signs that usually warn us like tonight of the impending storm. Well, in August, in nice weather, they're saying we need plow drivers, apply now. Because nobody in the state agencies can get enough employees. Population loss and benefits. When I started in 1979, I was making terrible wage, but my mom was an accountant and she told me, get a government job because it has a defined retirement. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't care what that meant. I was 19 years old with a race car, police car with a big engine and a full tank of gas. And they said, go drive. So that's all I was thinking about. My retirement age then was 55, which seemed like years, I mean, light years into the future. And then the laws changed, like you said, they do change. And I was a police officer when they said you can retire after 20 years of service and have pay. But in my mind, when I started, the retirement age was 55. So I stayed from 19 to 55. And because that was always my target. And because of that, I earned a very good retirement under tier 2. But the pay was never equivalent to what a warehouse worker made at Victory Markets. It wasn't what people were making on Henkels and McCoy on the High Lines. Those guys had extremely high paychecks, drove beautiful 4-wheel drive trucks when I always bought used cars. But I get paid for the rest of my life. That's what used to attract us to the public service. Now, because unions, and I'm talking to teachers, so the teachers' unions have got so large that they no longer negotiate locally like they used to. I was a union local president and I used to negotiate with our mayor. Now, police conference in New York, teachers, you name it. And I say police conference because that's the union I belong to. They were all in Albany Tuesday and Wednesday negotiating with legislators. So instead of negotiating local contracts, they negotiate laws that create benefits for them, which was unheard of when I was in the union. So now the pay has gone up. And inversely, the retirement benefits have gone down. And I don't, it was be careful what you wish for happening. So there is a huge movement to get tier 6 moved back at least to tier 4. And tier 3, I don't know if you want tier 3, but that's contributory also. But the tier 4 benefits, I think you only pay into that for 5 years, 10, and then you're vested. And then I think there's a few people out there who are tier 5. I think that lasted for 10 months. And then they realized that was too expensive and went to tier 6. So I am all for correcting that. But you know what else we need to correct? I'm looking around the room and I'm the oldest person, but there's some who are right behind me. And with the population loss, we can't get teachers. And the teachers we can get are the retirees. That is the demographic of my district. My district is almost exclusively over 35 because the school age after high school, a lot of them leave. So the workforce is retirees, but they can only come back and make 35,000. So I have legislation to boost that to 100,000. Other people have legislation to boost it to 65. And there's always a wrinkle. Do you know what the problem with the $35,000 retirement is? Our salary is tied to the retiree salary, where no New York State legislator can make private sector money in addition to their salary above what a retiree can make. So that's a stumbling block. And a lot of people don't know that. We have a salary cap of $35,000. And it doesn't say 35,000. It says whatever a New York State retiree can make. So if we raise it, it's like self-serving on our part. So that's the little snag. And I talk a lot, and I'll let Brian, how about your turn? Do you want to throw this at us?
Joe, you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Brian.
Tier 6, tier 4, yes. They should be parallel. There shouldn't be any difference here. Well, what we really need, there needs to be a political will to do this. And for some reason, the political will in the legislature just isn't there. A few of us that understand what's going on here, we see it because, I truly believe that upstate, we're having more problems with recruitment and retention because of our ruralness and because of the pay of the teachers force out there. So, I really think that we really, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the more noise that you can make and keep the heat on the legislature, then sooner or later this will get changed. I know when we come into Albany off the thruway, sometime during the year, there'll be a billboard up there, fixed tier 6. And I think that really needs to be kept up there. And I really think that's where it is. And, Joe, of course, did a great job on explaining how that number, that dollar amount is tied in with the legislator's salary. I don't think it should be. I don't think it, I think that, there's only a few legislators, but there's many, many teachers here. And, you guys know better than me. We can't recruit. We can't retain. We're asking our teachers to do more and more and more with less and less and less. And this is part of it. So, one thing I will tell you to do is keep sending emails to the legislators throughout the assembly and the Senate. In this office, we do read your emails and, and we do a good job with it. So,
Thank you
I'm
for that.
I'm a tier 6 member because I didn't sign up for the retirement 30 years ago when I was first a supervisor in a small town up here. And I understand where the tier 6 is and where tier 3 or tier 4 would have been. So I get it. I believe we all get it. And we just got to keep the pressure on the governor and the legislative leadership.
Thank you. Do we have another question? No, not a question. Yes.
Hello, thank you for
Hi.
being here. Thank you for being here. Hi, Joe. I'm Natalie McKay. I'm a 6th grade teacher, and I also serve on the New York State United Teacher Board of Directors. And my question is about state testing. So I can tell you as a 6th grade teacher, I know the furrow, if you will, over state testing has died down. But that being said, I still can talk about a lot of the reasons that we have issues with state testing and how we could do better. My question, though, is why can't New York State testing for 3 through 8 mimic the Regents testing? Why can't educators be the one writing the questions? Because in New York State, right, we have, for the Regents, we have educators writing the questions, and there's a higher passing rate because they're age and developmentally appropriate. Whereas in grades 3 through 8, educators do not write the questions, public school educators.
Who writes it?
Usually companies, usually privatized for-profit companies. So my question would be, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have support for possibly changing that in the future? And thank you both for being here.
Okay, I'll go first, I guess, and I'll be very efficient on this one. Can you guys help us with this? It's a great question. I don't know the history behind this is probably the people who write the tests and whatever have a great lobbying group out there, and that's why this decision's going that way. But I guess how can we help you get this message across? How long have you been asking for these changes to be made? And, what have been the stumbling blocks along the way? That would be, a great help for me to advocate. And I'm sure Joe would say the same thing. So I'm going to throw the ball back in your court. I don't know how to answer this. And, but I do see where this needs to be done this way. I don't think it needs to be done by people or, the teaching professionals here in the state should really know this. And I don't know, this is a great question to ask the SED. We probably should have the commissioner on here with us to have this roundtable discussion. Maybe that's something we should do next year is when we have this, invite the commissioner and her staff here along with us.
You invite her every year. And 1 year we did have Chancellor Young did join us 1 year. So sometimes we do get successful.
Thank you, Brian. And he went first to say, I don't know how to answer. So as you may have figured out, I retired as a law enforcement officer. But I got where I am, obviously, because of teachers. And I made it through high school out of Norwich. And a lot of teachers really molded me. And I don't know when this actually took effect. Did you say it's K or 3 through 6?
3A and Regents are written. And I want to be clear, like the companies who do write the test do pull in certain educators, but they are manufactured questions by companies that sometimes aren't even New York State based.
And is this where I hear we teach to the test?
Yeah, so we have, I think in this country, a history of measuring success by passing a test, like not so much portfolio performance based. That's why those are so great. The CTE programs are so great. But so those are the 3 through 8 districts who have a really low 30% state test passing rate. And then you'll see that how the next year, those kids will pass the Regents at 60, 78% passing. High districts like that. We averaged 42%, which was just about what the state was last year average for our 3-8. And then when we hit our Regents test scores, we went up to 75%. And our kids didn't change that much. It's really how the tests are written and the wording used in the verbiage and who's writing the tests.
Okay, can I ask a question? Can I ask
Hopefully
a
you-
question in on this?
Joe,
Pearson's, so Pearson's contracted to, I'm just using them, Pearson's contracted to, write the curriculum. Is OSG writing, is that part of the contract from OSG to the curriculum writers that the test is included too?
yes, yes, and also we have brought these up to SED. This is our internal SED question all the time. It's like, why hasn't this been fixed? And then I could go into it more too, right? Like I can go into how we get the Regent scores quicker. I can talk about how we'll wait almost a year to get the test results back. So for us to use that data to actually drive instruction, we're just testing to test. And so it's something that is on the forefront of our legislative agendas. That collective group does bargain for everybody. But we have so many other priorities like funding BOCES and fixing tier 6 that the tests do tend to get pushed away. But I think a lot of people don't know how 3-8 testing works.
And I would say it's not just 3-8, it's also at the college level
Yeah.
when we look at the teacher prep programs and the exams that they need to take.
Everybody needs to write down a name. His name is Mike Benedetto. Nice guy. No. Benendato, I believe, Mike Benedetto. Nice guy. I don't know if it's an I. Ditto.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Benedetto. Okay. I went to Italy with him. Nice guy. Retired school teacher who is the chairman of the education committee. Ask him or tell, he's from, I think, Northern Bronx. Nice guy. Just explain to him. And if it takes a law change, this is probably not a law that has to be changed. It's probably a rule or regulation from the commissioner's office. A word about the education, state ed commissioner. You know how all the state agencies have a commissioner, Ag and Markets, NCON, Health, all appointed by the governor? Do you know the state education commissioner is not appointed by the governor? She's appointed by the legislature. So that's where you guys have a little more clout by talking to us. And when I say talking to us, I'm pretty sure I'm looking around the room and I see a lot of heads nodding when I talk. We probably agree on 8 out of 10 things. We got to find the ones who don't agree and have the hard conversations with those members. It's very nice that you invite me and we have a cordial conversation. Maybe you need to find out who doesn't want this, and those are the ones you need to have the hard conversations with. I work up in Albany, I walk down the halls, I hear the hard conversations happening in members' offices. I've had them in my office, but with people who oppose my viewpoint. So it's the easy conversation is like we're having right now. We're all nodding, yes, we all hate tier 6 and things like that. We need to find the people who disagree and have conversations. And I can tell you a way to really push off a legislature and never get anywhere: protest in front of their office, throw things at us from the gallery in the assembly. Those people, even the biggest support of those people, when they disrupt things like that, the legislator digs in. So have meaningful conversation. The protest stuff, it's every day up there. It's, we get used to it. Even though it's annoying, it doesn't impact us. So that has the people who come up there and protest, but the people who can come up and sit across from my desk and have a passionate conversation, those are the people who are going to make me think twice and sway my vote. And it's happened. Okay? You agree, Brian?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that really, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, but thank you.
Any other questions from the floor? Would you like to?
I wonder what your perception of the regionalization is from this, from like where you guys are. What you hear about that. I feel like we're hearing one thing from NYSUT and then we hear something else from our building superintendents and our BOCES superintendents.
The reason we're talking about regionalization is why? Population loss. And almost all of the school districts that I represent, and there's a bunch, I think I represent 41 school districts in five BOCES districts. So it's a big swath of upstate New York. Most of those schools are already hyphenated or have interesting names. You know, Unadilla Valley, that was 2 schools. Unitigo, Sherburne, Earlville. The ones on Route 12 are still standalones, Norwich, Oxford, Green. But when it comes to sports, I think Norwich is the only standalone right now. But speaking for Norwich, because that's where I live and that's where I graduated with 247 in my class. And the last time I asked, I think Norwich was graduating 108. And that's it's a big school. And so I know they are doing everything they can with BOCES. I know there's talks about regionalization of bus transportation. And the electric school bus thing just screws it all up. But with the current style buses we have, you know, could there be 1 or 2 central bus garages in Chenango County or Otsego County? And the buses all leave from there. You know, everybody is already collaborating where they can. I don't know if this is something that is driven out of the urban metropolitan New York area, because my colleagues in New York City, when I say I have 41 school districts, how many do they have? 1. How many fire departments do they have? 1. How many police departments? I have 59 fire departments. You know, like I said, 41 school districts. But I believe we're already doing regionalization. I went to SUNY Oneonta. When was it? Was anybody at that regionalization meeting with State Ed? I was there. You were there? And I don't like that it's done under an emergency executive order. When I hear executive order, much like we're hearing a lot out of Washington, when we hear executive order up in Albany, it's to shortcut and to have little oversight over it. And I don't know why that had to be an emergency to do, you know, for them to declare that they had to do something. I think it was a response to the governor's shot across the bow in 24 with the budget. They had to do something to back her up, you know, in the reduction in state aid. Again, we used all the clout we had, and we might have expended we might have called in all the favors we could call in to hold harmless for all of you. But
Thank you for that.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, you can cut me off anytime.
No.
We have, up in the assembly, we have a buzzer when we've talked too long and we just sort of stop. So
No.
They're enrollment.
Well, during the hearings, we have budget hearings, we have a stoplight there, you know, it'll turn yellow 15 seconds before the 3 minutes. But regionalization, there's a lot of discussion on regionalization. It's like Joe said, it really shouldn't be forced on any districts, but I think that's a model of education that we upstate are going to have to follow, you know, because we're at a point of, you know, the schools, it's an educational insolvency here. You know, we talk about equity in funding for the schools. We need to be able to supply equity in education for all of our students. So I think that's something that we're really going to have to take a good hard look at. I truly think we're going that way. I think if it's done in the proper manner, I think it can be very, very successful. Like I said when we started, I think that all of us here have a great opportunity to reinvent education here in New York State, and I think regionalization is going to be part of it. And I think if it's, if it's done with a regional high school and leaving the elementary schools in the host communities, I think that that may be a way to really look at that. And I think I really believe that all of you feel the same way. If you don't, please tell me, and I can take a different look at this.
Even if we left the primary schools in their home communities and had regional high schools, we're still going to have somebody on a school bus 2 hours a day. And it's just the size of upstate New York, the time and distance between everything. And that's why power companies and cable TV, if there is such a thing anymore, telephone, if there is such a thing, it's called stranded costs. It's the number of customers along the line that just make it economically unfeasible to charge rates like that. So same thing.
I need to grow our region.
Well, we need population loss is really killing us.
We have another question from the floor?
Nobody on that side has asked anything.
No.
I can't hear you.
Come on up if you would, the microphone is up here.
School, and I am the department chair for their CTE. And we are looking at the new Blue Ribbon Commission, and where they're asking for schools to create these CTE pathways. But as a singleton family consumer science teacher, how do we get the resources? I mean, what is gonna help us? Is there anything out there where we can kind of grab for financial or even just support to develop these pathways?
I think this is his first.
Well, I'd like to answer it first, and I know you were breaking up a little bit. I didn't hear the
microphone's
question
up here.
very well.
Closer.
Sorry. I'm looking to the future for this Blue Ribbon Commission with the graduation. And I'm a high school teacher from Cobblestone, Richmondville, family consumer science, the only teacher in the district. And I do chair a career and technical education department where we have a few agriculture teachers and one business teacher. And we're looking to create these pathways. But I'm wondering, coming from a small school that doesn't have a lot of funding, will there be funding to help us to create these pathways in career and technical education for students? And even just having people out there to support us, to kind of lead us through this whole process, because it's a huge process to create the pathways.
Well, we've met with the Blue Ribbon Commission people that we've had up here in the Mohawk Valley. We really need alternative paths to graduation. And I know that with the way I guess I'm not, there will be funding somewheres along the line. I don't know where we are at this point. This is, I guess I need some help with this one. I'm gonna.
No, our team is looking at it already because we're looking at for the future. So we want to make sure we're all ready and set up. And we're like, oh, where do we even start, to develop these programs for the kids?
I think not every, plug your ears. Not every kid is destined for a bachelor's degree or even college. And CTE is a pathway, first off, to help keep our population somewhat stable by teaching somebody how to do something in the community. And I know I hear all the time, CTE, I think that to teach, what is it, 30,000? And it like the cap on that they pay is 30,000 a year, that funding. Does that sound familiar? Any finance people here? But yeah, but at the local school level, you almost want to think you'd have regional vocational high schools. I know metropolitan areas have the School of the Arts, School of the Sciences. You might be a teacher in Cobblestone, Richmondville, 2 days a week. And then you're going to another school district teaching the same thing there, 2 days a week. But I don't know how we get so overlooked because of our small numbers, where metropolitan urban areas always talk about, we need equity for this, equity for that. And many of us, Brian, myself, Bob Smullen, and Chris Haig, we're trying to convince our downstate colleagues, we need some rural equity.
Yes.
Because when transportation money goes to the lifeblood of New York City, the subway system and the buses, that would be like us getting $1 off gasoline up here. But they, oh no, we can't do that. That's what pays for our subway. So we need to, the more that we can get our colleagues from downstate up here to see the different lifestyle, the better. And we try doing it at least once or twice a summer. But the situation that you talk about, it's all deals with money. And
That's our issue.
everything is money. And that pot of pie always gets divvied up the same way. And again, this is another squeaky wheel thing. You've got to, like, you're talking to the,
Yeah.
I used to say, I'm preaching to the choir. I think the choir needs to sing a little louder so that some of my colleagues can hear you. But I agree. I went through a vocation in high school that sent me to the sheriff's office. Every day of school, I went to the sheriff's office. I made a career of it. I ended up with a 2-year degree. Had I got a 4-year degree, maybe I would have made something of myself later in life. But,
Yeah.
but I that was my career, and it started in high school. And I owe it all to teachers, all of it.
And we're starting to see a systemic issue, right? Because at SUNY Oneonta, they're struggling to find a consumer science faculty, and that's one of the
Yeah.
strongest programs around.
Norwich High School, I hate to talk about them, but it's the school that I live, pay taxes into. They didn't have a qualified math teacher.
We went,
And,
for a French teacher.
and they're trying to get waivers for whoever they can get. And of course, that waiver is where? At the state level. They want everything centralized. When the superintendent and the principal, they could probably find qualified people who are just hidden in the background teaching something else. But why? Population loss.
Can I put you on the spot?
Oh, I guess, yes.
So the other thing, it would be great if you made mention of national board certification.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
value of that.
Oh,
And
well,
actually, yes,
for teachers
yes.
to move.
And-
Well, we might lose more population. If our people are certified nationally, they may go,
No, we're
Finally.
talking about
Talk about
national
the
board
compact.
certification. This is an above certification.
for teachers.
Teacher centers very heavily support national board. Less than 2% of the nation is nationally board certified teachers. That is going through a tremendous rigorous process to be nationally board certified.
I guess I
This
don't,
does not mean license, right?
Okay.
It's just another level.
Yes, and I'm still working on that. And actually, I could have retired last year, so I'm up there. I'm probably older than you. But I do, just so you know, in Coastal Richmondville, I have 10 students right now at the senior level ready to go into education. We actually went down and taught reading to 3rd graders, but I take all my high schoolers out to different schools to work with young.
I'd love to
students.
hear that.
So we do have an educators going out there, and one of my graduated students actually is now teaching as a family and consumer science teacher in Gilboa. So there are kids out there, they want to, but having these wonderful programs where we can bring them out and show them, like the work-based learning is really important, because that actually makes or breaks the kids, I bet.
And the labor force needs them.
Oh, gosh, yes. And the ones that are coming out, boy, my kids are incredible. They really are. But I do want to thank you very much for all you
Well,
do.
you're growing your own. That's
Trying.
that's what we're doing right now.
Trying. But I thank you very much for everything that you are doing, and thank you so much for answering the question. Thank you.
I think Michelle has a question. Come on up if you would, Michelle. The mic is here. Yeah.
Yeah, all you have to do is come up and talk to me and the mic hears it.
I guess I wonder, I get very frustrated with some of these types of meetings because I appreciate that you guys are on our side, but I don't ever feel like we really get anywhere, and I know the squeaky wheel gets, the attention. But, right, you guys are supposed to be our squeaky wheels.
Yep.
Okay. What happens when the Department of Education is perhaps not here any longer, how does that affect us? Population loss. I'm done having kids. I can't help you with that. So what do we do when the federal government says, good luck? And we feel like upstaters, we've also felt like, good luck. Do you know what I mean? And I know the downstaters
Yeah.
come up during the summer. I'm actually a downstater who moved up here because it's better up here.
Yep.
So if they don't know what they're missing, I don't want them here. But I do want
Not me.
so. I tell you, the question about this, because I don't feel like you get me. 3 years, 3 legislative boards, we've been talking about fixing 6. Fix the 6 already, you know? So I get frustrated.
So welcome to my world in Albany. I am one of 150 in that room. And we are always outvoted, always. If this was the assembly and it was just Dr. Rogers and I on one side and everybody else, we would always be outvoted, no matter how great our idea was. But we're not completely powerless up there. We debate as much as we can to draw out from the sponsor of any legislation the devil in the details. We ask as many questions as we can for as long as we can. You know, talk about frustration. The majority caught on to that and they cut the time of debate in half. Because we asked too many questions. Talk about frustration. And then, so we just spread it amongst more members. So we'd hand out the questions. You answer, you ask these 4, you ask these 4, you ask these 4. Well, they caught on to us. Now, no one piece of legislation can be debated more than 4 hours. And that includes the multi-billion-dollar budget bills. So it's frustrating. All right. I was with Dr. Rogers today, and I think I stunned the people in his meeting with brutal honesty of my work environment. But keep doing it because it's got to get better. All right. Now, well, you started off. You were asking federal questions. You know, I can only tell you, I see what you see. I have no inside connections to DC. I can tell you the press corps is exhausted because they went 4 years every day, go to the press room, listen to the spokesperson, ask questions, leave. Now it is every 2 hours that there's a headline. Something is happening. And you know, that's what the majority of the people of the United States voted for. And there was no electoral complaint, you know, because the Electoral College voted. The common people also voted, you know, the popular vote. And a lot of people in my big rural district finally feel empowered by what happened, that their voice finally got heard. Please remain optimistic, and you got to have the hard conversation with the other people. You know, I get calls from people outside my district often. It's usually after I vote, and they're mad at me for voting how I voted. But if I will sit with anybody and listen and talk and let them try to sway me. And it has happened.
So I mean, you're political party.
Yes.
So do you think you don't need a federal department?
I think we do need something at that level. But
If
I don't know.
What does that look like in New York State?
Again, yeah. I don't know. What is the rest of the world going to look like without US aid? And that, I'm sure that money went to a lot of good things. We're hearing all the crazy things that it went to, but a lot of HIV research and protection was being sent into the countries that are just being decimated. I've talked a lot. He should have buzzed me by now. But I think it's Brian's.
Brian, did you want to add it?
No, Joe, I gotta tell you, you're doing a great job. Joe and I are with you guys 100%. And, the government moves slow down in Albany. We all know that. Um, and I always ask this, for you guys to prioritize exactly, all these issues are all great, but we can't go out and advocate for 15 things. The top 4 or 5 are huge. And if you can prioritize every issue we have here, we got tier 6, we're trying to recruit and retain, we're talking about regionalization. Those are really hot topic things. And I know the news media right now is, like Joe says, it's hot. We got a lot of things going on. Is the federal government going to get rid of Department of Education? I don't know. I know one thing that I have to worry about, and I think Joe will agree with you. We got a budget here, and we got to make sure that you guys are funded properly, and we're giving you the tools to educate everybody here, along with recruiting, retaining, and all that. That's where I have to be. I'm hoping like crazy that there won't be any funding cuts if whatever happens at the federal level happens. But the only thing I can take care of right now is things that you truly need. And we're here. We're 100% behind you guys. And one thing I will ask, when you guys reach out to your other legislators, if you're at a meeting in the Capitol, if it's lobby day and you're down lobbying, if you could leave us a list of who you talk to, so we can go back and follow up on those conversations. That would really help us in a lot of ways. I hope I answered your question, but we're here to help. And like Joe says on the debating, yes, the rules change, and they only give us so many minutes, and we try to change things. We try to prolong the debates, and they've changed that too. But government does move slow, and it's designed that way. We all know that. Well, we got some pressing issues here in education that we have to address. And, I'm glad that they finally, after all these years of us talking about the foundation aid formula, there was finally some political will to move the needle a little bit. But it didn't go far enough. We never finished the job. We go, okay, so they give it to the Rockefeller Institute to come up with some recommendations. I truly expected recommendations in a sample foundation formula to be followed with that, and that wasn't done. So we just got to keep on moving and moving and moving. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the floor? I think we have time for one more.
Can I ask a question or talk about another issue? This is Brandy.
Absolutely.
So, I'm Brandy Connor and I live in Oneonta right now. My concern is I work at the high school and I see technology can be used 2 ways. And we have to ask ourselves, are we using it as consumers or are we using it to enhance and help our lives? And what I see in education is that technology is being used as something that's consumed, not to enhance education, but rather to replace learning and teaching. And I'm very concerned that we're training our students to be lifelong consumers, because that's where everything's going, is where the algorithms are making everybody lifelong consumers, other words, addicts. And I want technology to be used to enhance our education, not to replace it. And I don't see enough oversight of how technology is used in the classroom. I see too many students don't know how to research. They don't know how to read. They don't read books. They get the quick answers. They use AI to cheat, not to actually enhance or help their education. And I want you guys to be aware of this. And that right now, there's 2 ways to look at it. Are we using it to consume or to enhance? And right now, it's being used to consume.
So what's the question that you're asking, Brandy?
My question is, are you aware of this? in
Yes.
technology. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you. That's part of the taking the cell phones away in the classroom. You know, I've always
but it
been,
goes beyond that, because
Well-
I would say like the Chromebook, because they're all using those, and I don't see it having any beneficial purpose.
you're right. And I've always been an advocate of learning how to use, you know, how to use the technology that's available to enhance our education. Uh, I'm a lifelong learner. You know, maybe I'm looking at this a little bit different, but, you know, I was an engineer all my life and I got gray hair. So I came from the calculator, the pencil and the drafting board to do everything. And then we learned how to use technology to enhance the ability to design faster and better. And I think AI is right now it's new. I think that and it's the easy button. And again, I'm going to go back to, you know, we need your help to tell us how we can do things better on using the technology, not just to have it to be for an entertainment purpose, but you know, I listen to I walk every morning. I listen to audiobooks, whatever, and I want to learn. I guess that's the social aspect that I believe that we've lost. Okay, we've lost the want for knowledge, and I think we need to learn how to get that, how to convey that back to our children. And I think it's part of of me as a parent to instill that in my kids too. You know, like with my youngest son, we always when we worked on things, and he's he's you know, he's got to take care of things for me with my phone. But you know, I want to know how to take care of it after that. I guess that's what we need to do. But I think taking the phone away in the classroom may be a good start to give it a kickstart. But I also think the phone in the classroom, I think we kind of missed it, because that could be a tool for us to use what they're using to push things across. You know, we do that all the time. I hope that answered the question, but I need your help on how to push these policies forward.
Thank you. I think we have a question from the floor here.
Actually, more of invitation, actually. Brandy, you said you're from Oneonta. Can you tell me what you do in Oneonta?
I'm not from Oneonta. I live in Oneonta.
Oh.
I work at the high school. I work with special ed students.
So
Maybe I'm going to ask for an invitation there. I represent the Oneonta area, and I'd like to come down and talk to you. And I think we need to brainstorm on some of this. I don't think it can be, I don't know the answers, but I think as a collective body here, we can come up with some great solutions.
Okay, because it's just when it comes to technology, when all these everything that is implemented in New York State, and like, because I get concerned about my daughter, she's in second grade. I don't want her using the Chromebook in high school. I want that gone, and I want to know what I can do, who I can talk to, because there just has to be something better out there. But the Chromebook isn't doing any good for them. And the idea
Brandy.
that everything
Brandy, I would invite you anytime that you would like to come. I teach third graders in Cherry Valley, Springfield. You are welcome to come out and see how we do it, because I feel like, and some of my colleagues were kind of looking at each other. I am absolutely not telling you that we don't occasionally use technology as here, you've got 10 free minutes, you can do something for free time. But I would say that many of us are very intentional about how we use technology. We are very conscientious about how technology affects our kids. We, as teachers and as parents, certainly, you know, technology is one of those double-edged swords. It can be a wonderful thing when we're using it as a tool. It can also be, you know, you mentioned that we do have a lot of kids that do get addicted to that kind of thing. But, you know, I think we have to, I'm glad that we are doing cell phone free zones. We have to be conscientious about what we're doing and making blanket statements in terms of how that technology is being used.
Yes, but I would also, I would like more oversight on how it's used, because I feel that when there, a lot of the times, like on your observation, the technology box is checked because it's used, but it's like, but how is it being used?
All right, so that's some good things that maybe we can set aside some time to do something.
No,
Absolutely.
Can you hear me? Sounding north from there?
I think you have to go, yeah.
you're muted, Brian. There you go.
Yeah,
Can you
no,
hear me?
I can't hear you. Now now I'll be
Okay.
able to.
Thank you both for coming, and I keep it short so I don't get emotional, but I just hope, like, hearing you both speak gives me hope when I feel like a lot is happening at the federal level that doesn't seem to be helping people. And I hope that what will come out of this in our state is that there will be more working together amongst the parties. I feel like a lot of the things that have happened is because there's such a division. And I'm not at the cynical level, I'm the skeptic, but I'm hopeful. And I just, hearing you both speak about caring about people and hearing you also have some, misgivings about things that are happening is hopeful for me. And I hope that it brings us together, because honestly, I'm glad that I'm in a state that's standing to something.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I went up to Albany thinking when I ran, I had an opponent from the opposite party. And I went to Albany thinking, okay, here we go again. I found out it's not Republican versus Democrat as much as you think it is in Albany. What do you think it is? Upstate versus New York City. And that's what it is. And it's not party. But there is a lot of party politics. But when it comes down to individual votes, a lot of the legislation has nothing that's going to help upstate New York. Density, schools in densely populated areas. My schools are all placed in a farmer's field, literally. Unadilla Valley was the last one. Gilbertsville, Mount Upton, both built on farmland. Do we close or?
No, go ahead if you have.
Okay, Joe, you done? Or you're still going?
No, he gave us permission to close. I'll let you, I started, you can start the close.
No, go ahead. If
Okay.
you're going.
So last year, the sessions are 2 years long, and bill numbers start at number 1 every 2 years. Last year, when we ended, we had over 11,000 bills. There's 150 of us. Any one of us can come up with an idea. There ought to be a law, and I can write my idea down, give it to the bill drafters. They'll make a law, it'll get a number. So last year, there were over 11,000 of them. About 800 made it to the floor. There is no way humanly possible, myself, Brian, or any of us can know or read 11,000 bills. They come out, 40, 50, 100 a day. And I rely on people who have a vested interest. You guys, obviously, education. Some people are NCON, some are hunters, some are manufacturing. They are the ones who pay attention and contact me. So please, if you are aware of a bill and it sounds like the sky is falling, let me know. I'll look at it. I can tell and I'll follow it by who the sponsor is. Is the sponsor somebody who's respected? We all have coworkers that are like, you don't belong here. So we have them in the assembly too. We see the sponsor's name and like, this is going nowhere. And then we look at the co-sponsors. There's some that have 80, 90 co-sponsors. Do you think that's going to make it to the floor? Of course it is. But if I look at it and there's a sponsor and the people who sit next to the sponsor, it's probably because they got cajoled into please sign on to my bill. That's going nowhere. So I can probably assure you, but just know that less than 1% of all the legislation gets passed. I will close with, I spent a career in law enforcement. And I believe that the police and the teachers are very similar. You know why? Because we are taking the place of parents, the parents who are absent from bringing up children. You do all of the hands-on trying to nurture, teach them how to blow their nose. And we're the ones who are trying to teach them, you can't just walk in traffic. You can't steal what you, and we're trying to, and when we do talk to a parent, we know where that goes. All right, not my kid, you're picking on my kid, whatever. So I think there's an affinity from my career. I have the utmost respect because I went through high school and I came out, I could write newspaper columns. I did that for 3 years with a high school and a 2-year police science degree. And I know the English language. I know how the portions of a sentence, all of that was from a high school, a public school education. And I can't thank you all enough for what you do. I appreciate it. Please tell me, at some point, you're going to let Dr. Rogers speak. We have somebody of that stature sitting in the room, and I don't, please tell me.
Yeah, you're welcome to make a comment.
Please.
Yeah.
You're gonna give the photo college president, then you do so in your apparel.
All right, keep it under
No,
3 minutes.
every time he speaks, I learn something, and I've already been with him once today.
So let me just share again, yeah, those of you who travail in the classroom and teach our students and work with our families, thank you. Thank you for, it's an incredibly amazing thing, complex thing for us to do, but so when you send your graduates to a SUNY school, Oneonta, or a private school, thank you for that, because the preparation for the next level has never been harder. And higher ed, just so you know, sometimes even college presidents get frustrated because we know that population is having an effect not just in K through 12, but also in the colleges. You probably are aware of some of my friends who were working as presidents at Cazenovia or Wells College or St. Rose. They succumbed to essentially budget woes largely because of declining demographics. So we're all in this together. I just want to make one comment about tonight. So one of the things that I advance at Morrisville, and it's a priority of mine over my career, and that is to advance an understanding of democracy, democratic principles, and have our students engage in civic outreach, civic engagement. I believe that one of the most important things that we can do as educators is to promote the tenets of democracy in our students and in our communities. Assemblyman Angelino was actually at Morrisville today to participate in an event that we do every month where I meet with superintendents, I meet with mayors, I meet with those in our community so that where we have common concerns, we can face-to-face have a conversation, not unlike you did here today. And so I actually am the president of a board for what's an organization that has about 100 colleges in New York and Pennsylvania. That's called the Partnership for Campus and Community Engagement. So I just want to thank you for inviting me here tonight so that I could be a part of this and witness this. I want to thank Assemblyman Miller and Angelino, because I may not know much, but I know one thing, that throughout the efforts to sustain democracy, that the kinds of meetings that took place here tonight is critical. And I have to applaud our assemblymen for coming to a meeting like this. We didn't know how many people are going to come. We weren't sure how hard or easy the questions might be. But I know this much, that when you have assemblymen, when you have elected officials of the caliber of the two we have here tonight, it bodes well for our democratic processes. Sometimes our elected officials, I think, talk at us instead of listening with us. And I think what we saw, at least what I felt tonight, was a sense that however difficult or hard the conversations might be, I know that we're not going to advance democracy unless we do so together and that we talk to each other. So I want to thank you all for being here, because you could have stayed home, especially with the snow that might be on the way. And I especially want to thank both Assemblyman Miller and Angelino, because They do incredible work, and I believe them sincerely when they ask you to tell them what the priorities are. I believe that we have in these two assemblymen and many others, mostly upstate, who participate in really basic tenets of democracy, and it starts with us telling them what we want. So it's been a very affirming evening for me to just be here and listening to you all, because I want to believe in the future of America. I want to believe in the tenets of democracy. And I got a pretty good sense tonight of that's alive and well in all of us. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you. I can follow that up. But that's your job, Mr. Miller. You can close us out.
Okay, I'll be really quick. Everything, thank you so much for the kind words. Albany, like Joe said, it can be an upstate, downstate situation, and it happens a lot. But you know, when we go to Albany, we're there to be problem solvers. That's what we want to do. We want to take what you tell us, be your voice. And I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you want to be. We're there to help everybody. We're there to make a difference. And I've always said that as long as I've been in public office, that as long as I can make a difference, I want to stay. And I feel that Joe and myself and most of our upstate people and most of the legislators are there to make a difference. You know, when I walk into that, and I say this a lot, when I walk into the legislative chamber there in the assembly, I don't know if I hope all of you have been there, and I'm going to invite your classes to come if you want to bring them to Albany. But when you walk into that chambers, it's a historic, beautiful place. And, you know, we're one of 150 who represent 19.2 million people in this state. And I look at that as a great responsibility. I'm not there for political reasons. I'm not there for financial gain. Believe me, this is this is the hardest job I've ever had and the most hours I've ever worked in my entire life. But there's a responsibility on my shoulders there, and the responsibility is to make sure that we make the decisions that are going to move this state, our families, and all of you and all of our kids forward here. That's what we want to do. There's no personal gain, but we need your help to do this. I'm an engineer. I'm not an educator. My wife was president of the Sequoia Valley Board of Education for 12 years. So, you know, we always had great conversations. And my chief of staff was a former educator down in Brooklyn. So we have a keen insight on in this office on what you do. But our doors are always open. I answer the phone in the office. I'm sure Joe does the same thing. So we're here to help, and just tell us how to advocate and how to move things forward. So I want to thank you for having this tonight, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody throughout the year.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I don't think I can wrap it up any better than you guys have already done so, and I appreciate you guys all coming out.